So let's get started. Shall we? So good morning, everyone. This is one of the sessions we'll have during UDS, which have to do with the part of app development which has to do with the product development, which is more the community side of things, trying to get more people attracted to the platform, and trying specifically to get more people to write applications for Ubuntu. This initiative is divided in several parts. We've been talking about growing the support community. We'll be talking about growing the developer community, getting people to write more apps, and we'll be talking about writing more tutorials as well. So this one is specifically about outreach, basically raising awareness of the tools that we've got, that we want people to write applications for Ubuntu, and that we want people to feel welcome in the Ubuntu community as well. I've been thinking about this, how to work on a plan to make this happen, basically. And I think one of the areas which we can start working on is outreach. And by outreach, I mean, basically spreading the word about Ubuntu development. In the last cycle, we got some of the tools in place, some of the infrastructure in place, and now it's the time to basically start using those tools and start creating this community. We've got developer.ubuntu.com, we've got social networks, social media embedded in there, we've got app developer blog, and I think we can make good use of these resources and more initiatives to basically make this happen. So just let me stop here. Someone was saying that audio was not working. Could someone perhaps help, like, ping IS about this to see if they can look at it? And so, yeah, if someone could help with the notes also, that would be great. We'll try to write down some work items, but it'd be good to have some notes on the discussion. So yeah, so that's the idea. So outreach, first of all. So some things we can do already. What I'd like to see is a regular stream of content on the app developer blog. Basically to get people to know what we're doing, get people to know if there's any new tutorials, and basically get regular activity and get the regular stream of content. So that would be one area. Another area should be increasing the usage of our social media in terms of our Twitter account, basically spreading the word of the things that we explain on the app developer blog and all that kind of stuff. Also events. On the last few cycles we've been working on the Ubuntu App Developer Week, and I think it would be good to repeat this kind of events and perhaps even expand it. We've been talking about things like contests, and I'd like to explore perhaps during this session if anyone's got ideas on that, in that aspect. Videos would be interesting as well in terms of outreach, because if we just write blog posts, the content might not be rich enough. So adding videos, adding image also helps making them more powerful, and also perhaps like using this for tutorials as well. So that's basically the main points, things I was thinking about in terms of outreach. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Which ideas do you think on these points? Which ideas do you have on these points, or do you have any new ideas on how we could reach more app developers? Not only like getting them to know about Ubuntu, but also getting them to write applications for Ubuntu.
Yeah, about the blog, we could ask developers that are featured in USC when the banner.
Sorry? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
right.
And we could ask developers to write something for the blog.
Just
Right. Right.
One of the things I think today is using, like doing it ourselves. If we can get in there ourselves and be developing apps, and then we'll be creating videos about that, you know.
So what's that, Michael?
I think dog food, like getting in there and developing apps ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, finding it exciting, but there's obviously a few things, yeah, that need to be before.
That's what we're doing at Ubuntu One as well. We're building essentially apps with partially there to demonstrate of all Ubuntu APIs to people. And it gives you a sense of what works and what doesn't as well. So developing apps yourself helps refine the tools. And once you've done it, you've got a bunch of apps. You can then go and show to people.
And plus it's kind of a great, like if the apps are really well done, it's kind of like a tutorial for people who can look at like how to get started.
And they're a showcase almost. You can pick it up because it shows off a particular bit of the platform.
Right.
And it's hard to learn from something like software sector, as good as it is, because maths is quite complicated. So having small, self-contained apps, the sort of things that we want people to write, that provide a really nice little experience on Ubuntu, are ideal for this sort of thing.
Would anyone be up for writing the first app? Or anyone would be interested in, does anyone have an idea on a small app that would be interesting to people to learn more about developing for Ubuntu?
This is to me where the question is, like, with which?
Which type of app?
Yes.
I mean, one thing that we could do is like write an application that emphasizes like the things that we provide in the platform. I don't know, indicators, unit integration and things like that. That might be it, or something that's perhaps a bit more exciting. I mean, we've got this tutorial on developer.ubuntu.com on writing simple media player. So perhaps something in that direction. Anyone has got any ideas for an app that would be interesting, perhaps?
Right, games. There's a huge game development community. They already know the algorithms, what they want to write. They're about bringing stuff to Ubuntu. I mean, games, it's fun to demonstrate things which tie in with the messaging menus, but to some extent, applications like that are quite obvious in tutorials. They're useful as a tutorial, but you get the impression no one would have sat down and read this if it wasn't their job. No one wrote this for fun. Games, people write them because they're fun to do. And yeah, they don't have a messaging integration necessarily, but it's a good way of saying to someone, here's a small app.
So I was just looking at my phone what kind of applications I have installed, and one that may be interesting is like a small fitness application, basically where you can keep track of your your running or your push-ups or whatever. And then you can have like Twitter integration, like Quiver integration, basically impress your friends. Not so much maybe on your friends. But anyway, and also like messaging menu, like little notifications like you are late, with your training schedule, like this kind of stuff. I don't know, it's just a random idea.
Would you be interested in that one?
I see.
That could be an interesting place for anybody to get ideas. Look at the kind of apps you install on your phone you find useful. They're very single purpose, a lot of single purpose type apps that are small, lightweight.
I mean, yeah, why not? I mean, yeah.
Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll create a list. I'll write an action on me to create a list and reach out. Create a list of interesting apps. So, I mean, I'll be reaching out to you guys probably to write applications. Since, I mean, the proposal was for us to write applications, to write the first application.
So, I'm just going to say, one of the things that developers said that we talked to, that they wanted video stuff. They wanted to watch a video quickly. You have to wonder if you can create a series of videos about creating this small app. So it's not just one big video, but lots of series over a number of weeks. So it keeps coming back to the site. So if you're going to write an app again, break it down. I think you used to get the magazines when you were a kid that used to take you through tutorials for building a game within a number of weeks. So you could do that with a video. So people subscribe and keep going back.
Oh, I mean, you're thinking of writing the app tutorial, or like the process of creating an app, yeah.
Even if you give them the finished product to start with and you take them through it.
So, right. So basically, I mean, that would be dogfooding, like us writing applications or writing the first application and documenting how the process works. In terms of outreach, of having more content on the app developer blog, one thing we need to do is to syndicate the blog to Planet Ubuntu probably, and to Canonical Voices. So let me just add an item for me to do that. I don't know, I think it would be interesting to have, as I said, like regular content. So we could have like bi-weekly or monthly updates on what's going on in the software development, in the app developer world. I mean, be it perhaps updates on what's happening in the infrastructure, like new things like, yeah, we've just worked out how to do automatic packaging, so here's the blog post house. Here's the news on how this works. Or perhaps, yeah, we've got this new cool application to the Ubuntu Software Center. I mean, I think that's important because then it keeps the activity, it keeps people interested. I'd be happy to provide these regular updates, but I will need help like on content. I mean, which things are happening, which things are interesting for the blog, and things like that. So I think one thing we can do is, since the team is still building up, I think I'll aim for monthly updates, like on what's happening in the app developer world, and perhaps if we've got lots of content, then we can go for bi-weekly updates, for example. But yeah, so let me write down one for me. So monthly updates.
I have a quick question about this work. Has there been any work done so far on identifying essentially for us to interview or to gather some research on the app developer experience as it stands now? So I'm just wondering, in terms of how we grow the app developer community, it strikes me that a lot of the things that we could do that will probably have the most impact are probably things that we probably wouldn't perceive up front in a session such as this. Like, there's things that we can produce more content, we can produce better supporting materials and do more outreach. But I'm just wondering whether this could include people who have got apps already into the Ubuntu Software Center, or a set of independent app authors that we could maybe just do either a survey or do some interviews with, essentially some user testing.
So we did that the first round.
Right.
We'll get to you on tomorrow.
Right. So that was specific to development.ubuntu.com, right? Yeah. I'm just thinking in terms of the wider kind of advocacy, the community growth aspect. So development.ubuntu.com is great at kind of pointing people towards something. I'm just thinking about, just to get an idea of, for example, where people read, so we could do maybe some targeted advertising, or what their needs are in terms of the business side of submitting apps, or porting their apps, that kind of stuff. I'm assuming that we haven't done any of this kind of.
No, I mean the research we did was specifically targeted at either user testing for developer.ubuntu.com, or asking them what they were expecting. I mean, we did a survey as well on what they were expecting on developer.ubuntu.com, the tools they used, and how they work. But yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
Might be something that might not even take necessarily a lot of time. If it's just a survey, then if John can advise us, people can send it to just like it just might be something to give us a little bit more insight into what the typical needs of an app developer.
We did do that for the first 6 or 8 or 10 commercial paid application developers that went in there. Asked them how their experience was when we were doing the beta.
Oh, cool.
And so we did do that, and we should expand that out to a wider audience. And there are a lot of applications. I mean, you wrote an application. Did you write it with Quickly? What did you do?
Yeah. It's loosely described as an application.
It's an application. There's a lot of examples out there right now we can snag and probably add to it. I'll bet you there's more than you think.
It might help if you end up putting up some kind of a chart showing where your biggest market share is, so that they know what apps to target and make. So whether it's more towards the server markets or it's desktop, how many users we have in that market.
Yeah. I mean, we're basically targeting the desktop market, aren't we? I mean,
Yes. You can't do anything with server yet.
Yeah. But it's a good point. So another area is for outreach is events. I think I'd like to repeat the Ubuntu App Developer Week, but I think we could also try to use. I mean, the Ubuntu App Developer Week is great for getting some attention and getting people to learn how to get started with Ubuntu App development. But it would also. It's IRC, and it's often quite, the audience is more like people that are coming from the Ubuntu site already. But it would be great to think of ways of reaching out to wider audience, and perhaps using other types of media. I mean, sometimes we've been talking about like having Q&A sessions on using Google Hangouts or video and things like that. Basically, broadcasting. Has anyone got experience or any ideas on this area, on basically webinars, tutorials, like broadcasts and things like that? Podcast might be a good idea as well. Yeah.
It's just a simple Ubuntu App Developer Hour, regularly scheduled every week or every 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And I know it gets good traction out of that. It's taken a while, it takes a while to build up your audience, but keep it interesting. He just plays music all the time. So.
Your thing, I mean, the impression I have is that it's a similar-ish kind of crowd.
What, the Q&A things?
Yeah.
When I go for a long, like the problem recently, for example, is like traveling. Like when I travel, the audience drops off. But like when it got into a regular weekly thing, yeah, there'd be 300 or 400 people there.
And what I mean, is it going up, or is it the same sort of 300 or 400 people?
It would actually generally grow. I mean, there'd be a lot of familiar faces, but it was useful. I mean, people generally find it quite useful. But yeah, I mean, the thing I find useful about it is that it's an hour of my time doesn't require any preparation, so it's not a large investment of It's not a large investment.
Let's be honest, the only time 400 people showed up was when we went shirtless. I think that was while they were there.
Hey, that's not fair. I was wearing makeup. That was preparation. That was a joke, by the way, everyone.
Sponsors, you might get 600.
During that kind of app developer, that sounds like quite a good idea. And if some of it was used up by, a bit of people explaining a thing, then if you record them, they instantly become a series of scripts.
Yeah. One thing as well, I think, maybe just as this could be a community thing, talking about the resources section developed a lot of Ubuntu.com is just one small experience. I wrote a tutorial like 3 years ago about GStream on my blog, and people, like, to this day, still keep reading it and leaving comments and asking questions in it, and just, it feels really good, like, when people read something I wrote and they enjoy it. That's maybe something we can reach out to our community with and say, you write tutorials that appear on ubuntu.com, and they can subscribe to it. It's just, it was just really motivating, you know.
Yeah, that's one aspect of it, but I mean, we've got tutorials are an important aspect of it, but I've prepared an extra session for this because I'd like to flesh out more what we do with tutorials, but yeah, I mean, tutorials is something we can definitely use. So, I mean, I started doing this for translations already. Perhaps I could expand that on regular Q&A sessions on Ubuntu app development. Let me try to put an action work item for me to investigate this and setting up regular QA sessions on Ubuntu app development.
Since we're giving you tasks, what about writing or taking the blog articles and submitting them to developer magazines, or there's a bunch of Ubuntu specific magazines, Free Software Magazine, a few others. It would be worthwhile trying to find some interesting topics.
So that's actually an interesting one that I wanted to maybe use some of this time for. One of the pieces for me, going back and forth, is there's a couple different, when we say app developers, I think everyone in this room even thinks it means something different to them. So app developers, for some people, are brand new people to programming, right? There's brand new people to Ubuntu development, which is programmers. There's existing desktop app developers. There's different audiences. There's existing mobile phone application developers. There's the audience of UDS as app developers. And when the ideas get a little lost sometimes, because I think they're trying to serve too many different audiences. And so maybe if we can, in this right now, list those types of developers and talk about what we can do for those different audiences. It's a little bit like Jono was saying, which is making sure we understood what they actually wanted. But we know what they want. It's just when in this room, I'm watching a little bit of we're trying to make something for 3 of them and not the other 2, and then we make something for 2 of them and not the other 3, and it gets a little confusing really quickly, and then we end up with content, like a blog post that doesn't really write to the indie developers, or we end up with worrying about I do this sometimes, worrying about how to introduce someone to Launchpad, which some app developers will need to know, but not for a whole bunch of other ones, right? And we end up losing that audience when we talk about it starting at this, not overloaded term, but this term of app developers, which means many different things to many different people at this point in time, especially inside Ubuntu.
They need to be introduced to Launchpad, we've already got them done.
Right.
I think when you say, we know what they want, I get the impression, this is alluding to your point, that we know what we want, what they want for this probably fairly specific group, right?
Right.
I think it's our interpretation of app developers, which is actually, I suspect, is actually quite different to the wider Android iOS kind of group of app developers. It seems to me like you've got app developers who, you've got big publishers like Electronic Arts or Activision, for example.
Right. Those are in another category.
They're in a different category. Then you've got indie developers, and then you've got kind of random people. It strikes me that each of these people,
We have these people in personas. I think we're very much targeted at this at smaller indie developers rather than we won't go after the big.
Yeah.
They're just going to work it out for themselves, aren't they? Those people, to an extent.
Some to guess. Everyone does their job, right? They will just work themselves out, but not without you.
So we've got indie developers, open source developers, new developers.
Brand new development, right?
Okay, so let me try to make a new category.
I imagine that the need is somebody who's already got content, that they've already got an app.
Yeah. Cross platform developers.
Yeah, so people are like, we're going to need you to provide guidance about reporting, and they're probably going to be more interested in the business opportunity, I suspect, than open source developers who are.
Right, if I showed them, if we presented them quickly or Launchpad, they'd run away, right?
Yeah, exactly. Whereas for other types of developers, Launchpad would be incredible. Yeah.
Right. So brand new developers, and so can we also, maybe in this session, brand new developers probably aren't someone that we need to target too much when we talk about app developers, right? I don't know, I'm kind of throwing that out there.
Why not though? Because there could be some of your most loyal app developers. They're going to be, if they start with Ubuntu, they're going to be very loyal to your.
I suspect that they're a fertile ground just because, this is just a guess, but I suspect that because we're essentially starting out we're quite behind our competition. I imagine that if for people who've already got content, the business opportunity is going to be probably perceived as being quite limited. Whereas for a lot of people who are more open source aligned, they're going to be passionate about Ubuntu. They know that Ubuntu is a very open source friendly environment, so they're probably going to be more interested in exploring this option.
Okay. I think it's always nice to have that training of the next generation.
Everyone starts off as a developer.
They do.
Maybe that could be a gateway drug.
Say that's where outreach to universities and stuff like that really plays a key
Is there
role.
any kind of package prepared that you can give to a professor or teacher or something, or give this out to your class?
I mean, especially if it covers like styling of code and whatnot, how to build a good library.
How to get started?
So I guess it's quick.
So what they're asking for, what you're asking for is an SDK.
I don't know if it's an SDK so much as just something that you can hold in your hand that gives you the idea.
Quickly, right? That's the best example.
Sorry, where between developer.ubuntu.com/getting started and an SDK does this idea fit?
Because you've got to get people to develop it.
Oh, sorry,
It's John. It's John's boss marketing. So getting them something that they can actually say, here's what it's all about.
I guess the analogy would be it's a bit like a band where you produce a press kit because you want them to just listen to the album. Like it strikes me that we need to explain the opportunity that goes out to people and then gets them to develop.ubuntu.com, which is our web of deceit that pulls them in and gets them to write an application.
And press kits work very well for us in the past. And things like that work for us in the past.
Like for example, the cloud outreach stuff, like the cloud kits that we sent out to people, just got people excited. It strikes me that this could be like some more marketing type materials, but
the other thing which may or may not mean anything is a lot of people we talk to develop apps for the hardware they own. So reaching out to people who already use Ubuntu is really quite important for new developers because they own the hardware.
They already have it installed, right?
Exactly, yeah.
I think where we're in a good position is that previously we couldn't even, like, people would say, okay, I'm interested in writing my app, where do I get started? We couldn't point them to anything. Now we've got development.com, which is incredible. But when people ask the question, I'm interested in writing my app, it's because they were already part of the Ubuntu community traditionally, whereas now I think we need to get to that point. And I suspect, like, to this point, is that it's probably even just a snazzy little PDF that we can send to people, or like something that we can send to universities that just outlines, we've got this incredible platform, you can make money from your apps if you want to. There's 20 million users, wherever it might be. Just that kind of like the elevator pitch about why this is a really interesting platform.
Just something I could document to my daughter's high school teachers.
But which persona are we targeting with that?
I'd say it's different for each of them. Like for the indie developers, as an example, you'd want that to be about the facilities that we have for porting the apps, because that's what they're going to care about. Whereas for the new developers, it's going to be about quickly and Launchpad. I mean, this is coming from a body with no experience, by the way. This is just like first speaking personally.
But I think we need to know which ones we're targeting before we can decide what to do about it. Because we do want different ones for each. So where do we see our next developers coming from?
But can you be that specific when you go into a university or high school? Because they don't know yet. Or maybe...
Well, that's the target market, university and high school. That's completely different to Windows developers who, doing cross-platform. It's completely different. Which ones do we think are the next?
So maybe you could think of it
next
people
target
with pre-existing content, people who haven't got pre-existing content. So like people who haven't got pre-existing content are going to be interested in our creation tools, and that could be the kind of thing that we send out to universities.
Right.
Whereas people with pre-existing content is going to be about how can I, what's the content opportunity for the Ubuntu platform, which is probably going to be more around the monetization and the porting of services.
Right.
Maybe it's just that's the too broad, just an idea. Maybe that's just the too broad brushes.
So you're proposing focusing on those two categories of people?
My hunch would be, yeah, but I don't know how well we right now we can serve people bringing their apps to Ubuntu. So, for example, if ID Games want to bring Rage to Ubuntu, I don't know what we tell them from an engineering perspective, how they actually recommend they use Ubuntu, for example, to deliver that content on Ubuntu. It seems to me like for the new app developers, we've actually got a pretty decent story. We just outlined it all at develop.ubuntu.com. We can talk about the open source heritage of Ubuntu and all the rest of it, but for content, people with pre-existing content, I suspect it's a little bit more of a challenge. It feels to me like we have less of that story in place, in one place, maybe.
Well, but you got to remember that the new developer, it would take a long time for them to get an application that they need. Whereas the existing guys, like id Software or EA or something like that, probably already have everything in place, and they could do it if we give them the compelling proposition.
Do you feel,
even the smaller?
Just from your experience, do you feel like if we had, let's say, id Games, I mean, if they were really interested in, let's say they thought the platform was interesting enough to deliver their content on, do you feel like, in terms of engineering, we have the support and guidance that we can provide them today? Or do you feel like that's still an ongoing thing?
That's probably still an ongoing thing. I don't know there's anybody on staff that can help with porting the game specifically. Packaging, yes, and if it's a game that already exists, and we've got plenty of resources available to us to help them get it to there if it runs on Linux.
So, Danny, you have a question?
Yeah, I just had two ideas. Might be a little cliche at some point, but one, I think we can, people know that there's things out there where they can put out stuff, but we've seen, hey, so-and-so has made this much money, we'll give them the idea.
Success stories. Success stories.
Yes, success stories.
Yeah.
Hey, I can do something better than that. And if he made that kind of money, I can do better. Another idea is, and this is one that might be a little cliche, is to have a contest, best new app, and where we actually sponsor and put some money behind, best new app. So you're getting new people interested in producing something, not necessarily competing with the ones that are already there, but new people.
Right, no, definitely.
Yeah, there's a success, as I've mentioned in other meetings before, there's a successful competition called Pi Week, which I think we should basically just copy.
Yes. These are marketing efforts, right? These are marketing efforts that aren't just us pushing information out there and expecting people to, but some way that they can actually interact and get involved.
Right, yeah. That's a good point.
Everybody that's out there also has community managers. EA has a community manager. All the Humble Indie for the Frozen Fight guys have community managers. Is there a way to talk to them, address that type of audience? Because most everybody has some sort of community. Because that's what they're trying to do, is grow their community of people that use their games or use their...
I just want to make sure the word community there for them means social media management, right? It's Facebook and Twitter.
Exactly.
And
only, which is different than our earthly community, right?
And often they're online services like the multiplayer games.
Yes.
When you say community, they're looking for the broader developer community or player community. Is there any correlation between what we're talking about here and reaching out to outreach to those types of?
It strikes me that with the new developers, so if somebody wants to create, let's say, an app for their newspaper, if they run a newspaper, and they want to create a native app for Ubuntu just because they're big fans, there's probably more of a correlation because they're probably going to be interested in
like-minded people.
Yeah, they're probably going to have like some like head development team that's going to be interested in doing things like that. Whereas I suspect for the people with pre-existing content, such as games, maybe less of a crossover if they just want to. I get the impression they're going to be more interested in the channel of Ubuntu, the commercial opportunity as opposed to necessarily how the interface power can be.
Maybe a local solution, but at least to make some more advertisement of developer.ubuntu.com, we can maybe add a link to Software Center. You know, like to have an application list and just a link like, oh, once your apps is there, and just a link to developer.ubuntu.com.
Actually, check this out. It's in the help menu. So help for software developers. Maybe we could make it more prominent, but it was there.
So what did you say, John?
I checked this out. That exists. It's in the help menu. This is going to help for software developers. And it takes you to developer.ubuntu.com.
Oh yeah, I thought Didier was mentioning like something more dynamic integration. Yeah. Like you get your application. You get your application submitted, and then it appears in the featured section on developer.ubuntu.com. Something like that.
Can you explain a little more?
Yeah, it's just that, you open Software Center and you see the list of featured applications, and you just have a link like, oh, you want your apps there, just a link to developer.ubuntu.com.
So more prominent, more dynamic.
Yeah, using the Software Center, like opening page as a kind of driver track to developers because a lot of people who are looking at it today are probably developers or in a target audience.
So did we ever really get to the macro developer environment community definition and then get down in the middle of those because we kind of ran off on different subjects when we got talking about that?
We got 3 minutes.
I guess we don't need to do that.
We can go back into it right now. Are there any other? I don't want to tell you all the ones I've thought of, but like, are there other ones that we believe are in the existing Ubuntu community in this room that you? What categories would you put themselves in one of those three? Would there be content for you there?
So you're talking about these indie developers, open source developers, or brand new developers?
Yeah.
Are there any developers here?
Loosely.
Yeah.
I've written apps.
Yeah.
But you'd be on the open source developers category. Any indie developers?
No, I'm cool.
Yeah, I think at this point the survey that John was mentioning, trying to reach out to all these types of personas would help, because that's something we can. I think in this particular session we'll be able to get like feedback mostly from open source developers, or perhaps brand new developers as well. But
I think one of the things we've got to maybe sometimes struggle with is that I think sometimes in the open source world, particularly in Ubuntu, we often think of upstream, so we'll think of Begin and Firefox and NovaCut and whoever else, but in many ways those folks are actually quite different to the app developers. Like those folks are actually open source enthusiasts who build software, so they're more ingrained in our way of thinking, our community. I think with the Android and with the Apple world, I get the impression that these folks are just the Apple. They don't actually really care about. They won't care about the Ubuntu operating system. They'll just care about the platform that they want to deliver it on. So that's why I think to me it's really important. What we do is we are exposing the SDK, the API side of this, as opposed to exposing the internals. For example, like to me, UDS is completely inappropriate to reach out to these folks because this is not an integration event, So I think it's just important that we don't present too much of the sausage factory on, inside of the we just expose this external layer. Yeah. Like developer.ubuntu.com is great.
My only wonder is at the moment, like GDK is kind of centric to get started. I wonder if that's going to be compelling enough for people coming from that. So I'm thinking right now queuing up for those kind of people.
Yeah, but I think that's a different discussion because that involves platform, that involves consumer applications, and this is something we try to solve on developer.ubuntu.com with the tools that we had at the moment. Because from developer.ubuntu.com we can make an opinionated choice on what we've got and on what the resources we've got to implement the toolkit. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I get the point and I agree. But I think at that point was more like getting people pointed in the right direction with the tools that we've got right now. I mean, that doesn't mean that in the future that will be reviewed. I mean, there's work ongoing on reviewing what the next toolkit will be, and developer.ubuntu.com will be updated on that.
This is the best answer right now, right? Are we time? Just some more time?
Yeah. We're over, but if you've got a question or...
Do you have like a central place where an app developer, like open source or brand new developer can try to reach designers? Because most developers won't get up apps if they don't have any support from designers.
We don't. I mean, we've got developers.ubuntu.com, but specifically for them to get in touch with designers, we don't. That's a good one. Let me add it to our notes.